Have you ever looked at a statue and wondered if it looked just a little bit too real? Maybe its eyes are a teeny bit too alive, or its limbs look poised to move. You wouldn't be the only one. For ages, people have told stories of statues coming to life, moving as they please throughout the waking world. There's something unnerving about something that is supposed to be totally fixed in time and space suddenly springing to life. I know I wouldn't want a statue to blink while I was taken in the artistry. And I sure wouldn't want another one springing to life and throttling me. Imagine the obituary. Man strangled by unmoving human-shaped rock. Oh boy. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes. Today we are taking a look at some of the most dangerous and terrifying of fictional fabricated forms, sentient statues. I hope your eyes are feeling real hydrated because we're about to count down the top 5 scary statues you should never turn your back on. Drop a comment down below if you've ever had a spooky statue experience. Let's get started. Coming in at number 5, the spooky clown statue. Roll the clip.
I just wanted to check on the little ones. How are they?
They're fine. Perfect angels. They went to bed no problem.
Okay, good.
Listen,
For those of you who are interested, that comes from a 2008 horror anthology, Amusement. Doesn't that awaken a sort of primal fear deep within your stomach? We've probably all heard a version of this story somewhere. There's a new babysitter taking care of a couple kids while the parents are out of the town one dark and stormy night. She puts the kids to sleep and calls up the parents with a little update, make sure everything is to their liking. Teenage childminder says everything's alright, but she wants to know if it's alright to put a sheet over the clown statue as it's creeping her out. That last detail stuns the parents for a moment before they tell her to take the kids and go to the neighbors, and they'll call the police. This confuses the babysitter until the parents leave her with a terrifying detail. They don't have a clown statue. Later that night, the police will find a man in a clown costume sneaking through the neighborhood, knife in hand. That's no laughing matter. The fact that almost everyone claims to have heard a version of this is a testament to how truly upsetting it is. It also lends credence to the possibility that this may have actually happened at some point. It's a damn good thing she didn't throw a blanket over the clown, or who knows what would have happened. There are many different versions of this story. Sometimes a murder actually occurs. Sometimes it's implied that the clown was interacting with the children without anyone knowing. Thankfully, the story almost always ends with the clown being caught, although real life can often be scarier than fiction, so I would still keep an eye out for any clown-shaped structures. Next up at number 4, the Great Stone Knight. Anyone who has played Dark Souls can attest to the amazing enemy design. Pretty much any one of the foes you fight in Lordran can take a spot on a top 5 scary list. There's a fear for each and every person, from snakes to ghouls to skeletons on wheels, but today we're talking about statues. And these are some statues you do not want to underestimate. These Great Stone Knights will mess you up for real. Towering way up over a person of average stature, it's highly unlikely someone would ever survive an encounter with one of these aggressive statues without something like an Estus flask to call their own. Likely weighing hundreds of pounds and consisting of solid stone, they can pack a serious punch. If that wasn't enough already, remember they wield giant weapons made of stone too. Your bones would be dust before you even had a chance to run off. Oh, and if you do try to run, they'll cast Tranquil Walk of Peace, which is not as peaceful as its name implies. You'll be slowed down to a crawl, making it that much easier for these Goliaths to smash your skull into smithereens. Do yourself a favor and stay very far away from any statue you may see lying among the moss and lichens upon the forest floor. Unless, of course, you're the chosen undead. Get good. Coming in at number 3, Fleshie medical statues.
Yes, excuse me? I think. Yep.
If you weren't convinced by the name of these guys, just take a look. Did you see the exposed muscles on that thing? Did it just move? Aren't medical dummies supposed to stay still for examination? Imagine exploring an abandoned hospital and running into one of these. I might just jump out of my skin. If you didn't know, these folks come from the indie horror game Statues. Creative title, right? In the game, you must stay one step ahead of, you guessed it, moving statues. They can only move when you aren't observing them, kind of like how some classic horror villains who seem to move at light speed when off camera. There's also a blinking limiting mechanic to ensure that you don't just stare down these creepy crags of rock until the end of time. The game actually seems to take inspiration from a very famous statuesque monster from Britain, but we'll get to that later. In the game, you have to complete all sorts of objectives while avoiding these statues at all costs. If you fall behind or take too long before looking at one, only bad things can happen. This can lead to some very intense moments in which it is quite difficult to stay one step ahead. One wrong move can lead to getting caught, and you do not want to get caught. Next up at number 2, Gargoyles. From the ramparts of the Notre Dame all the way to the now streaming 90s cartoon, these stone creatures have captured the imagination of people for a very long time. If you've ever seen one adorning an ancient building, you'll understand why. Grimacing, snarling rock beasts baring their teeth at you. Sheesh, enough to turn me to stone. Gargoyles were originally an architectural element meant to divert water from the rooftops of old buildings. I know, not so scary when you consider the fact that they're just fancy water spouts. The gargoyles would prevent the roof from being damaged in the event of heavy rain or similar weather events. Water flows through a trough cut into the back and pours out their open mouth. Imagine not knowing this and looking up to a monster vomiting water on your head. That's probably where a lot of the stories of gargoyles coming to life originated. Plus, longer gargoyles meant better drainage, so the more effective ones would be more visible. Scarier too. Of the many legends surrounding gargoyles, the most prolific involve the sprouting of bat-like wings and a hunger for flesh, sometimes human. There is one in particular known as the Sturga, or sometimes the Strix, that sits atop Notre Dame, watching carefully, waiting to descend upon some unlucky Parisian. It resembles a bat or an owl with a large head, voracious beak, wings, and horns. The artist Charles Mayron wrote that this monster does indeed exist and is no figment of the imagination. You better watch out. These iconic monsters have inspired and appeared in many forms of media, always as beasts of supernatural strength, speed, and power. Simon Belmont and his relatives have fought them off in the Castlevania series. Treasure hunters have been eaten alive in the movie Rise of the Gargoyles, and they even fight crime in New York City in the animated series Gargoyles. All I'm saying is that there is a possibility that these beastly sculptures do actually come awake at night and stalk the darkness. Keep your eyes on the skies. And finally, at number 1, Weeping Angels. Don't blink. Keep your eye drops ready. Be prepared to jump into the nearest telephone booth or police box. Now, I've already referenced these creatures while discussing the Statues video game, and it's pretty obvious where that took its inspiration from. Weeping Angels. First appearing in the Doctor Who episode titled Blink, these statues have made their way into the hallowed halls of horror legend. They are one of the most popular and terrifying Doctor Who monsters. Possessing a natural and unique defense mechanisms, the angels are quantum locked. This means that they can only move when no other living creature, including their own kind, is looking at them. As soon as they're observed, they instantly turn to stone and cannot be killed. Imagine running from one of these. No blinking, no turning away. Every time you break line of sight, they creep closer and closer at terrifying speeds. They have the ability to send others into the past to a point before their birth, which allows the angels to feed on the potential life energy of what would have been the rest of their victims' lives. It's paradoxical and petrifying. They don't usually kill their victims because they want to feast on that potential. I wonder if someone could ever figure it out Groundhog Day style, or maybe they're just doomed to live life over and over, meeting the angels at the end of each identical run. These time-traveling terrors tend to appear as humanoid angel statues with unremarkable features. That is, until they get close. If within feeding range, they open their mouths wide and bare their vampiric fangs. It's implied that any statue you've ever seen could be a weeping angel in disguise. As quantum beings, they are extremely difficult to kill. This is thanks to their extreme physical strength and the fact that the statues are pretty much impossible to destroy. Plus, who would want to get that close to one of these anyways? The only way to stop a weeping angel is to keep them under 100% constant surveillance. And the only reliable way to do this is to have two of them look directly at each other. If that happens, they will be stuck until somebody moves one out of the sight of the other. Hopefully nobody's stupid enough to do that. Weeping angels combat this possibility by moving with their hands over their eyes, giving them the appearance of crying, thus weeping angels. So if you ever see a statue that looks a little too sad, get the hell out of there. Well, that's it for today. If you weren't already unsettled by statues, now you have some very good reasons to be. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up down below. Until next time, thanks for watching. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=ndkvvihrewu. For those of you who are interested